Skylar Bones, welcome. Sorry I'm late, guys. Sorry I'm late. Just dealing with something. Nothing bad, just annoying. Just annoying. Involving my roommate. My roommate, who happens to also be my mom. By title. But, oh well. Don't have analytics set up. Okay. But yeah, sorry I'm late. You know, it's me. I really do need to start thinking about doing a starting soon screen. That way I can at least put the stream to go live at 2, but then if I still either have my mom wanting to talk to me, just like what happened today, or if I have a bowel movement, both of which happened today, actually. It's funny, both happened today, and yet I know that there's been streams where I've been even later, like 2:15, 2:20, or something like that. Brian's new dishwasher, welcome. Back to back streams. I've almost finished that drawing. I'm just adjusting some things. Nice, Skelly. Looking forward to it. Um, yeah, ironically, both of those things happened today, and yet there's been some streams where I've been later. So, 10 minutes late. Hopefully, that doesn't become too big of an issue. And we have some. And here's the thing. As you noticed, Brian, back to back streams. To be honest, at the beginning of this week, wasn't planning on streaming. Um, yeah, I really wasn't planning on streaming. Not necessarily because of the lack of desire, but simply just because topics weren't. I think there was only like one thing that I wanted to talk about, which was that Inart event. And even then, I'm like, all right, there were like 3 or 4 photos, and they did look pretty neat in terms of the photos that were shown, and I haven't pulled up on the docket. But at the same time, I didn't really see anything that was like, you know, giant, or just the quantity of news to talk about wasn't as large. And then, what day was it? Was it yesterday that it happened, or was it Wednesday? It was around Tuesday, Wednesday, where a couple things happened. One, was it Tuesday, Wednesday? When? Hold on, let me look at my email. Should be able to note by my email here. Where's my Fandango email? Where you at? The 17th. When was the 17th? That was Wednesday. Okay, yeah, Wednesday morning. Well, I guess not Wednesday, but I guess Thursday night is when I was like, uh-oh. Because the rumors were going around that around somewhere but fucking like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, the tickets for I was about to say Homecoming, for Spider-Man Brand New Day were gonna go live. And at first it was just a rumor mill, and I thought to myself, okay, could happen, could not happen, who knows? I mean, we are kind of coming down the pipeline from when the movie gets released in about a month and a half. And so I just took it at face value, but then what then got me going, oh shit, I should probably set an alarm, was that around pretty much the entirety of Tuesday, it was a 1, 2 to 3 punch of Zendaya and Tom Holland were like on a British show doing a promotion already. Sony released a video of Ned, the CEO. Kudos to Sony for being self-aware of the meme. They couldn't actually say CEO of sex, but they called him the CEO in the description. So I was like, all right, somebody over there in the marketing team knows about the meme, so that's cool. Of him talking about an app that he designed to track Spidey, and the kicker, because all those things I was like, okay, where there's smoke, there's a little bit of smoke here, and there might be fire following suit. But what definitely made me go, okay, yeah, set the alarm, was that literally that night, that was it. Oh, what the It's not huge, but it's there. It's apparent. I didn't even notice it until now on the webcam. But it's big enough to pick up on a webcam. There's been some stress this week, as you can tell. And amongst them was trying to secure these tickets for Spider-Man Brand New Day that launched Wednesday morning, in which I woke up at 6 in the morning for. Or a little bit before 6 in the morning. It was like 5:55. And I'll use this as a bit of a story as our preamble here to let some other people join the stream after a few minutes before we get into the main topics is the whole brand new day conversation. Because what, like I mentioned before, was the kicker that made me go, yeah, I think the tickets are going to go live. And I think with it, Marvel usually likes to release a second trailer. Was that later that evening, it was I think 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock or so, Fandango themselves, along with I think AMC and Cinemark, unveiled the popcorn buckets. And, which is the huge thing that everyone's doing right now, the popcorn buckets, which even I'm getting kind of tired of. Except for one. There's literally only one popcorn bucket that I genuinely want. And you guys may have seen it already. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Where are you? There's only one popcorn bucket that I do want. And unfortunately, because I want it, it's sold out. 100%. It is completely sold out, and I think the only way that I can get it is either if I pay up the ass on eBay or whatever, or if a miracle happens and when I go to go see the Odyssey with my girlfriend later in July, the theater that we go to just happens to have a stock. Or if, hell, maybe to avoid those crowds, maybe in the next week or so I go hunting at movie theaters to get this popcorn bucket. And even then I feel kind of scummy doing that because I'm like, all right, I'm not even watching a movie. I don't even want the popcorn. I just want the bucket. Even though at the end of the day, it's still a sale for the theater. So it's a win for them. But, to stay on topic with the Odyssey, this is literally the only popcorn bucket that I want right now. Not the Spider-Man one, as much as I love Spider-Man, not the Spider-Man one, no other big movie except this one. And the funny thing is that I think there's even a second popcorn bucket for the Odyssey that's actually modeled after the Trojan horse. But the one that I want is actually this one, which of course is in fact sold out. It was, I think, sold out within minutes of it going live on the Fandango, I'm sorry, on the IMAX website. Because I think it went live, it hurts. And when I saw the tweet from, I think, Wario64 out of all people, Wario64 tweeted, hey, popcorn bucket on sale on the IMAX website. And by the time I saw that tweet, it said 5 hours ago, and I'm like, I want it, which means it's probably sold out because other people want it. Check the site, completely sold out. God only knows if it's if it was authentically sold out or if it was scalped. Probably a little bit of both. But this is the only one that I genuinely do want because I'm all about film. And out of all like the premium formats, out of all the fancy smashy screen technology and all that stuff, the one that I genuinely do champion because I do feel the effects of it the way Nolan intends it, as what's the word I'm looking for? As snobby as that sounds, as pretentious as that sounds, I genuinely am an IMAX believer. And so seeing this being one of the popcorn buckets for the Odyssey, I'm like, I want this. I really do. And $50 is steep, but I barely ever buy movie theater merchandise. Honestly, like I can't remember the last thing that's like this, let alone a popcorn bucket. Technically, I didn't buy it. My girlfriend did as a gift. It was the and it was I think from like 2-3 years ago when actually I think it was when the Flash came out in 2023, which was the popcorn bucket that has the lid that's pretty much modeled after the bat signal. And not only can it open up where the actual symbol is, but it lights up. It's got an LED inside, batteries at the bottom that you have to swap out, and you can switch it on and off. That's it. And that was again 3 years ago. So my next one would have been this one, but again, it's completely sold out. Unless, like I said, a miracle happens and there's like extra stock that's gonna get released to theaters in person. So the only way to really get it is to track it down. And like I said, if I get, God forbid, lucky, I don't know. Sorry. There was some rumbling, and I'm like, getting an earthquake? But no, might have just been a truck. I got the Venom head popcorn bucket from Last Dance. Yeah, this is a hot take, but the ones that are just like the head of the character and then that's it, I think those are like some of the lazier ones. And I guess it kind of makes sense for some of the Spider-Man related characters. Even Brand New Day, I think it's going to have one that it's basically just his head and you open it up. But I'm like, Can you get more creative with it? Granted, whenever they get creative with it, you end up with the worm from the Dune, which I think kickstarted all of this. That was patient zero. Was the guy that goddamn sandworm from Dune Part 2 in 2024. And also, I might, considering that that's the one that started in 2024, then I might be wrong in my math saying that the bat symbol was the one from 2023 with the Flash. No, it was with something else. What was it? What came out afterwards? 2024, 2025. When did that come out? Now I'm curious. Hold on, real quick, before we jump into our bat signal popcorn bucket. Yeah, there it is. When did this come out? It was for the 85th anniversary at AMC theaters. I'm going to try my absolute best to never part with this, because this thing, 2024. Okay, so I was off by a year. Dude. Okay, I was about to say. I'm like, why is this eBay listing at $259? I was like, do I really have a popcorn bucket that's going for that price? But then I see listings on Mercari that are only about 60 and 75, and I'm like, all right, that's a little steep for a popcorn bucket, but it's also not crazy bad. Yeah, this one's 70. But yeah, okay, so it wasn't really tied to any like movie. It was just to celebrate the 85th, which makes sense. 2024. They also had the cup. And it's funny because I think even my girlfriend asked me if I wanted the cup, and I was like, nah. I saw the design for the cup. I was like, it doesn't speak to me. What definitely spoke to me was that bat signal. You see that right there. And look at that. It was even cheaper, $35. That's crazy that this is $35 and yet it has the light up feature. And yet the camera is 50, but it doesn't really have too much of a light up feature. It does have a cool little effect that if you look in the viewfinder, they actually put in a still from the movie in there, which is pretty cute. And yeah, $12 for this cup that has the Batmobiles, which is kind of neat, but at the same time, I'm like, I could take it or leave it. Somebody on eBay is selling the cup for $75. Oh my lord. Brian's new dishwasher. I think Supergirl has a pretty cool one with Lois chopper bike. No, it's not. It's not cool. You know why? Because that's not a popcorn bucket. That's a gravy boat. I saw the footage of it. And yeah, I'm right there with everybody else. You can miss me with that, because if they're charging full price for that, and I can blatantly tell it's fitting like a cup's worth of of popcorn in there, nah. Sorry, man. I saw the footage of that thing. I was like, that's a highway robbery. And I think there is a separate popcorn bucket that's not really all that like designer. It's just a generic like Supergirl design wrapped around it, but it's just a standard bucket. You're better off getting that because it'll be cheaper. Sure, it's not as flashy, but you get more popcorn to actually put in there. Like, damn. You might as well get the McFarlane Toys Lobo vehicle that they sell, and then fill that up with popcorn. Clean it first, and then fill it up. Skelly Bones, you're done. You're done with the drawing? Uh-oh. No, but before I went on the whole popcorn bucket diatribe, um, yeah, I did secure the tickets, so I did set my alarm. Oh my god, this was so annoying. But of course, what do we expect in 2026? I wake up at like 5:55 a.m. after only about 2.5 hours of sleep. When actually, I don't think it was even 2.5 hours. I think it was like 2:20, 2:15. Anyways, set my alarm, and you know what's crazy is that I'm an Amazon Prime member, which means I qualified for like an early screening of Spider-Man Brand New Day, and it's only a 2-day early screening. 2 days, quote unquote. I use quotes because officially it's 2 days early. Unofficially, it's only 1 day early because there's also Thursday night showings, so it's really only about 1 day, 24 hours earlier at 7 o'clock Wednesday, the 29th. And um, it's exclusive for Prime members at 7 o'clock that night, Wednesday night. And I am a Prime member. And when I found out about this event, there was this link that will take you to a page where you can subscribe to be notified when tickets go live. At 5:55, there was no email from either Amazon, Fandango, not just for the Prime early screening, but just for tickets in general. Like there was no communication whatsoever or correspondence in my email. But I know better, right? I've been doing this for a while. I'm like, immediately close out your email, go check Twitter, and then just open the Fandango app. And sure fucking enough, open up the actually I don't think I even checked Twitter first. I checked the Fandango app, and sure enough, there's the page for Spider-Man Brand New Day, and tickets were available. And I'm wondering, like, what about that Prime event? And I open up the Amazon app, type in Spider-Man Brand New Day in the search, and at the top there's a little banner that says, "Hey, Prime screening for Prime members. Learn more." I click into it, and sure enough, now instead of telling me the whole like subscribe to get noticed, it's actually telling me, log into your Amazon info to, and we'll take you to Fandango. I sign in, takes me to Fandango, takes me to the page for just Prime members. There's the 7 o'clock showing. Tickets have gone live. How long ago did tickets go live? Prior to me finding out at 5:55, almost 6 o'clock in the morning? Who knows? Could have been a cool already 30, 40 minutes. Could have been scalpers, but sure enough, the majority of seats were taken in the center. All that was available were like in the corners, all the way in the far back, off to the far left or the far right. It, everything that is, optimum for me, gone. So where's that email? Where was the post? Where was there anything under socials? There was virtually nothing under socials. They just flipped it on. And God only knows, like I said, if any of this shit was genuinely authentic. What was it like, actual people who simply just refreshed the app and said, "Oh, hey, it's live now," or what is more likely the case, fucking bots just scalped it all up. I was like, it's way too early in the morning for me to get pissed off right now. Seriously. Um, so I X'd out and jumped into just the regular showings for either Thursday and or Friday night. And I thought to myself, I think it'll be best to do Friday night because, yes, it's not the early screening on Wednesday. It's also not some of the first batch of screenings on Thursday, which means I pose myself at a bit of a risk, at a 24-hour risk of spoilers because of the way social media operates, because everyone's a fucking idiot, uh, a jerk, everything, name every derogatory name under the sun for spoiling, because everyone gets some kind of either sexual arousal or dopamine fix by spoiling, because that's just how our society works today, where if you don't watch something at 0 hour, too bad, so sad, here's a spoiler, as vague as it is, without utilizing hashtags or using the proper like spoiler parameters like on threads where you can actually like blur stuff out. No, I need the likes. I need I need my likes, I need my shares, I need my clicks, and if you don't watch it at, like I said, -5 minutes from when the movie either dropped or got shown in theaters. And then, of course, even if it is in theaters, you got people pulling up their phones and immediately recording a clip and then posting the clip as the movie is going. Yeah. But logistically, I needed to do Friday night because my girlfriend, even if I had succeeded in getting tickets Wednesday night for that Prime members only screening, there's a very good chance that my girlfriend probably would have been either not be able to make it or be able to make it, but we would need to find out a way to, like, for her to just stay in the area because she's gonna have to go to work the next morning, and it'll cut into her sleep because the movie's like at 7. From what I hear, this is actually the longest Spider-Man movie to date. It's 2.5 hours, the full 2.5 hours. So with trailers, 2 hours and 45 minutes, maybe 250. By the time we're out, it's almost 10 o'clock, and she has to wake up at like 6 in the morning. It's almost cutting into her time. She's gonna be exhausted. So I was like, all right, let's just do Friday night. And by sheer accident, I find a theater that I actually really like in Irvine, California. And I find a showing at 6:30, so about an hour and a half after she gets off work in Irvine. And I click it. And I thought I was still half asleep, but I was like, I checked the seats, and almost all of the center, like I said, by this point it's already like 6:05, 6:10. Um, good chunk of the middle of that auditorium is already taken up, but I couldn't believe it. There were two seats right next to each other in the middle. I would have preferred a little closer to the front, maybe one more, maybe 2 rows to the front. But where these two seats were available at, it was the classic beggars can't be choosers situation where I'm like, it's now or never. Fuck it. Click, selected them. And then I get a waiting screen from Fandango because of traffic, pretty much a traffic jam, that says you're, you're online, you're in line to buy tickets. Your estimated wait time is 25 minutes. And that 25 minutes turned into 27 minutes. It turned into 30 minutes. I'm like, I'm not getting sleep. I'm not. But the seats are probably as best as they're going to come. They come. So there I am, in this limbo state of like half asleep, half awake while I regularly check in on this progress bar. He goes through and puts me on the checkout screen. Asks me to sign in with my info. Asks me to put in credit card information. Confirm purchase. I get my email saying you got tickets. And I knew that was it. Like, there was no point in checking other theaters, because by this point it's like almost 6:45 in the morning, almost a whole hour after this whole thing probably launched. I was like, this is it. And like I said, it's a Friday night. My girlfriend's off work. She doesn't, it's the weekend, so she doesn't have to go to work the next day. Doesn't have to worry about sleep. If anything, she's gonna have to hit a good, tall soda to give her a second win for the movie. But apart from that, tickets are secured for Friday the 31st for Spider-Man Brand New Day. So again, not going to be as early as some other people on Thursday or even Prime members, but at least it's technically opening day. So, in terms of avoiding spoilers, I guess it's not that bad. And what's curious is that this whole thing happened, and yet there was no second trailer until later in the day. They usually launch the trailer right with tickets, right with the ticket launch. And I don't know how how that the whole thing was organized. But the trailer was launched like a whole 6, 7, yeah, I just did the meme. 6, 7, or 8 hours or so later. It was like what, 1 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon that they launched that trailer. And real quick, did you guys watch the trailer? How do you guys feel about the trailer? I'm going dark when Spider releases, no social media, no electricity, earplugs when I'm okay. Am I still alive? Or do I just really suck? Oh, okay. Yeah, it says I'm still alive. No, it's because my counter keeps going back down to 0, and I'm like, all right, is it a bitrate thing, or what is that? Why does it do that? I swear to God, Kayak needs to get like a new marketing team because those ads fucking suck. Also, since when does Papa John's partner with Toy Story? Oh yeah, that's right. They did their personal pizza thing that Review Brawl covered. People need to stop being so trigger happy as soon as the movie comes out. Like you can't speak to a friend about it or make a post without spoilers, and you have the comments about it instead. Like I said, it, it's not an exaggeration when I say that it is truly an addiction. Like the symptoms that drugs create in terms of like that dopamine feel, those chemical surges in your body, that's what they're after. That's it. It's not because they actually want to talk about the movie or the game or the show. It's just to feel something. Like I said, arousal of some kind. I don't know what it is, but it's just that dopamine hit. I sent okay, Skelly Bones. Let me, you know, put you out of your misery here. Let me see this because, like I said, I went on a rant here. And yeah, let me know if you guys want to talk about the brand new day trailer because I know it's already been out for a little while. I did make a short that ultimately bombed, so it didn't really do too well. Oh well. But in that short, if you guys didn't watch it, I basically said that this is honestly one of my favorite trailers in a really long time from a blockbuster, whether it's MCU or superhero related or anything like that, because it didn't, most importantly, it didn't give anything away. It expanded on what we saw in the first trailer and just kind of, in the fullest sense of the term, expanded it. So we already knew that Frank was in it, and they took some of those scenes and kind of expanded them a little bit more. A little bit more of Peter dealing with his internal struggles of going through some kind of transformation, which I think was the main theme for this second trailer. Because I feel like the majority of the theme for the first trailer was the whole dealing with the repercussions of people not remember who he is after the spell. And I feel like they barely touched on that in the second trailer and were a bit more emphatic on the whole transformation process of his eyes going black, something aggressive happening to him, while at the same time dealing with this other threat that is able to control things. That, again, people out there have their theories. The most newish, and I guess some people would say it's spoilery. I saw one stream that I like to watch saying that they shouldn't have shown that. I'm like, nah, they were going to, you can't have it. You can't have it all. But for what they showed, I was like, it was still pretty reserved, and that was the Hulk. Seeing that Bruce Banner, like I mentioned in my short, it was a Chekhov's gun situation where they showed him in the first trailer with that thing on his hand. We heard him mention in what was it? or was it his end credit scene appearance in Shang-Chi where he's got the thing on his hand and it's like, okay, that's the thing that's like tempering his Hulk. And I knew that that was going to come to a boil here in some capacity. So Brand New Day sort of teased it. Um and who knows, there's people saying, and by people I mean that cast themselves, alluding to the possibility that the Hulk that we saw in the trailer is not necessarily the way the Hulk is going to look like in the final film. Just saying. So, Brian, you haven't seen. Okay, you know what? Since some of you guys have not seen the trailer, we won't watch the trailer. And like I said, it's already out there. It's already been days. And that's the thing. Is like every time a trailer for something Batman related or Spider Man related drops, I always got this like really bad internal struggle where I'm like, I want to react to it. How do I switch accounts? Oh, here we go. Oh, you know what? This is so problematic. Hold on. Hold on. No, I always have this internal struggle where I want to film like a reaction, but I know that it's just going to be a wasted effort. All right, hold on. Yeah, it's gonna be a wasted effort because if you're not what I honestly, I know that this is gonna sound pessimistic, but if you're not one of the big reactors on YouTube, then stop. You're not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it. I know that this is super doomer speak, like the most doomer of doomer ways to think. But if you are thinking about doing a reaction channel, um, just stop. Think of something else to do on YouTube because if you're not one of the big ones for whenever one of these new trailers come out for a Spider-Man thing or a Batman thing, then nah. And again, it makes it, what makes it very clear to me is that every time that I used to do, when this channel first started in 2021, 2022, and I was doing reactions for whenever anything dropped that was Spider-Man or Batman related, whether it was a trailer for a new movie, game, or show, I did do reaction videos and they would bomb almost every single time. And then on top of that, you have to dance around the constraints of copyright, DMCA, with the trailer always getting nixed by the studio, or to me, what's worse and what would generally happen, it would be okay. Oh my god, yeah, I remember. I think this happened at least once, maybe even twice, but I'll have to double check and see where this happened, where I did a reaction and it was approved for monetization, and the video didn't do well for like the first few days, but somewhere on like the fifth or sixth day, it got picked up a little bit in views and was starting to make the rounds, getting a few more comments. And lo and behold, right when that was happening, right when it was on the upswing of exposure and trendingness, guess what happens? Copyright claim. Not a strike, but a claim. Which means the video can stay up, but now all that sweet moolah is now going to the studio. I'm like, no, fuck that, man. That, and then again, the likelihood of the video bombing, I was like, I hate, I don't like doing reactions. I don't. And when I react to a trailer, if I want to be authentic, no matter what's going on in here in terms of how I'm feeling about something, I'm not doing this. I'm not do. I like that. That's the only thing that works with these reaction videos. And I don't want to be that. I don't feel happy doing that. I know it'll bring exposure to the channel, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to be that. Does that make me a bad content creator, a shitty content creator, or what? Because I honestly don't know. I actually found your channel through your Spider-Man 2 reaction back when Spider-Girl was on the... When Spider-Girl was on the channel? Who's Spider-Girl? You mean my girlfriend? Well, I mean, she wasn't... She was like a guest. Like, only... Like the... If you're talking about my girlfriend, then yeah, it's only like... Those certain scenarios where it made sense for her to be there. But she wasn't like actually, no offense to her, but she wasn't actually like part of the channel. It's just that when, like, for example, when we filmed our review for The Flash or a review for Across the Spider-Verse, it's because we saw those movies together. And when we saw those movies was literally, I think both movies came out in June of that year, 2023. And I think around that time my parents were out on vacation. So I was like, there's nobody home. One of the things that we can do, since we just saw this movie, is actually film a review together. And I asked her if she's down for that. If not, I'll film it by myself. That's okay. You don't have to be here. And she was like, yeah, I'm down. And that's how you got those reviews. But it was never like a actual like plan for her to actually be part of the channel. Companies are just coming like it's a trailer where you copyright trailers. It's not like you're showing the whole movie. That, and it's like, it's literally free marketing. And eventually, to play devil's advocate, eventually they did catch on and say, oh yeah, this is free marketing. But we only want the free marketing that we like. So the people that do this and say that all of the trailers look amazing and look fantastic and look awesome, they're the ones that are going to get invited to the early screenings, or at least the very early releases of those trailers. Soups. Not the ones that are going to react to the trailer and be like, I don't know how I feel about that thing, but we'll wait and see. Get them out. Blacklist. Even though they're still open-minded to seeing how it plays out later on. Nope. No room for that here. Get out. Get out of here. At first I thought this was like a couple's Spider-Man channel. I mean, I'd be down for that, but it's logistically, it would make more sense like once her and I move into a place. Like, I would definitely say there's a good chance of her appearing in more and more videos, or even live streams like, such as this, when we move in. So yeah. And if we ever like blow up to like 1 million subscribers or whatever, I'll make sure to keep the content consistent without just dropping off the face of the earth girlfriend reviews. Damn, I'm just roasting. Before we move on to our first topics, I know I just, just shooting the shit. I enjoy this. I enjoy this. And plus, it's not like, there's a bit more of a campfire kind of discussion. But before we move on, Skelly. Ladies and gentlemen, official art. Can I not zoom in? I guess not. By Skelly Bones. Official artwork by Skelly Bones. Here it is. Now fully touched up. Nice. Very, very nice. Hold on. I'm open, since I have this open over here, I'm pulling up chat on my phone. That way I can stay it. So, ladies and gentlemen, you guys are getting a sneak preview of what might just be our new profile pic for the channel. gave you a silver web line and black. I did see that because at first I was like, "What's the difference?" But then I looked closely and I didn't notice that the web lines are different. And then I just picked this one because of the white background. It makes the because admittedly with the black background, there's some details, especially, and that's probably going to be my first piece of feedback, is that with the black background, the parts that are meant to be blue, and I think aesthetically, I get why you went with this hue of the black or like a jet black. It's because it's supposed to mimic Spider. I mean, I'm sorry, Batman, because you obviously have the Batman and the Spider-Man suit melded together. So part of my brain, actually, you know what? I guess I'll hold back on that feedback because my feedback was going to be that I wish that the blue was a little brighter or was a bit more bluish. But then thinking about it, I'm like, well, it's supposed to be like Batman's suit, so it's supposed to be kind of like a jet blackish, jetish black, and therefore I'm like, I guess that can kind of stay actually. Now looking at it up against the white background, yeah, the pouches, the red. I guess I would just say like maybe some kind of Kevlar esque sort of texture on the red. Maybe that'll be the feedback that'll replace that. In terms of the suit, apart from that texture on the red, the suit is perfect. I wonder who on like Etsy would be willing to be commissioned um to create those gauntlets and the belt for the suit. So if you have the black background one, it could be slapped anywhere. What do you mean? Or actually, you know what? Um, I guess that's a request that I have, Skelly Bones. Do you? We'll see. Since if this is a digital file that you have, do you have a PNG version where there's no background and it's transparent? You should be able to output as a PNG where it'll have nothing underneath, and it'll be like a thing that I can, if I want to put my own background on it, I could slap it. My bad. Slap it on and then put that as my profile picture. Yeah, if anything, like if you could send me like a Google link that has all these, and then one that's backgroundless, that's a PNG, and maybe that'll help out with the compression. It does have texture. Maybe that's it. Yeah, because hold on, let me see if I could look at it. Yeah, it's compressing, dude, because it's kind of washing a little bit. I don't see it. Because at first I was looking at it through OBS, but then I minimized OBS, and now I'm opening the file a bit more directly, and I'm like, yeah, it's got to be the way Instagram's compressing, because it's kind of kind of smearing it a bit. Yeah, if my favorite part of the suit is, of course, definitely the symbol and then the belts and the gauntlets. Now, the other piece of feedback that I do have is the head. The hair is awesome. I like the hair, the 5 o'clock shadow. The likeness I like, but I do have a little bit of a Middle Eastern thing going. And here's the thing. Here's the probably the feedback or the thing that I would say can maybe help, is that my ethnicity is Mexican. This guy doesn't look Mexican. He looks Middle Eastern. But if you want to tweak it in a way that looks like me, I've also been able to pass for Jewish. So if you can make him look a little, uh, I understand that you tried to maybe opt in for. Maybe it's the nose. Maybe the bridge of the nose is a little too long. Maybe that's why. I'm also noticing that this cheekbone right here is protruding a little. My cheekbones don't protrude that much. So yeah, I would just say maybe some tinkerings with the actual likeness. The hair's perfect, and then the second piece of feedback, and probably my last piece of feedback, is the actual size of the head. I actually think it needs to be a little bigger, just a couple notches bigger. Like just take the slider and just make it slightly bigger, because in real life I have a big head, and then here, because of how yoked you made me, which is awesome, I love that. I do also think that the head still needs to be a bit. you kind of have to give it a slight little influence, very similar to um Expedition 33. I don't know if you play that game, but Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I noticed not too many people mention this. If you go back and look at those character models, their heads are slightly bigger than they're supposed to be proportionally, to kind of emphasize this very unique aesthetical artistic choice. And I kind of want that just a little bit. So just the size of the head needs to be cranked up a couple notches, not terribly much more, just like I said, a couple notches. And then a little bit of my cheekbone and the nose maybe needs to be worked on just ever so slightly. But apart from that, that's really about it. And like I said, if the red parts have the texture that I'm simply just not seeing because of compression, then disregard that. So my main feedback would just be on the likeness. But apart from that, beautiful. Like I said, I cannot wait to have this be my profile pic. I'm digging it, and I'm grateful, and I love the shadow, the semi beard. Much better than what I can grow in real life. If I make it bigger, it'll make it blurry because I can't use big file sizes. What do you mean? Well, when I say bigger, I don't mean resolution. I mean actual like size of the head. Just a couple notches. Like I'm not asking for increased resolution. Or does that create the resolution? I don't know. But yeah, like I said, those are my only feedback. Those two things. Cause I remember, I wonder if I still have it. Cause maybe it's the like I said, that this new style of rendering that you're doing that's creating that effect. Because to be honest, I personally really liked the kind of anime feel to the prior version. I wonder if I still have it in my Google Photos. Granted, it's been a while that you sent it last. I wonder how long ago you sent it. That first stenciled version, that sketched out version that you sent me before Jesus, coloring it in. Where is it? If I can't find it, I might just have to go into the Instagram chat because I'm pretty certain that it'll be much quicker to find there. It can't have been that long. Can it? I can't find it. I'm spending too much time on this. I'm going to have to, like I said, go through it on the Instagram. Yeah, no, I can't find it. And we're spending way too much time. We really need to start these topics. It's been almost a whopping goddamn hour. Anonymous Throne, welcome to the stream. If I increase the head size, it blurs everything out. What app are you using? Yeah, I did get the notification on the link though, Bones. I'll check it out momentarily, but I gotta get at least through one of these topics before I see that. Brian, bonjour with the Mexican flag. Yo, question: how do you feel, Anonymous Throne? Question: how do you feel about the Wolverine gameplay trailer? Overall, speaking in generalities, I do like it. I do understand some people's criticisms about the not just some. It's funny because on the one hand, I do see a little bit of DNA from the Spider-Man gameplay, but then on the other, I do see how it's much more punch focused. It's the camera's a little bit closer and tight knit because Wolverine is meant to be much more close quarters, like, hey, I'm about to cut you up with my claws. I need to get up close and personal as opposed to long range and acrobatic like Spider-Man, where the camera's much more pulled back. So I kind of see where both camps come from. I also do see that as much as I love to have an M-rated, bloody and gory Wolverine, there's times where the blood does get excessive, not in a gross way, but just in a way where I'm like, all right, he cut a limb, but it's gushing like he tore the whole torso off. It's like, all right, crank it down, because it's like, it's almost like those old Kurosawa movies where somebody gets their head cut off and it's literally like a fountain just going, like, all right. But apart from that, I dig it. I can give you a non-semi-realistic one too. Yeah, because like I said, that first sketch one that you did, I like the kind of anime look to my face as well. Oh, the canvas size. Can you make like a big, a separate file that's a bigger canvas size, and then take all those elements and drop them in there? Hopefully, because then I wouldn't want you to like redraw everything, because I know how annoying that is. That kind of actually something similar like that happened to me last night with Photoshop when I was actually doing the the hmm, when I did the thumbnail for this stream, where for some weird ass reason, that's weird. For some weird ass reason, I could not edit the text, so I had to create a whole new box of text at the bottom. I don't know. All right, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for belaboring the point. I think there's some of you that maybe have me open on a separate tab, but it's finally time to get to these topics. Now, in my defense, one of the topics, or if anything, two of the topics are going to be a little bit quicker, which I think kind of gives me a little bit of a pass on spending almost a whole hour talking about the brand new date trailer, talking about this artwork that Skelly Bones provided, and a bunch of other shenanigans that happened over the week. Because as the week progressed, like I said, I was initially not really thinking that I was going to have to stream because I didn't think that there was much to talk about. But then leave it to the folks over at UP Find Yours with the LPZZ team proper to finally, and I noticed I dropped some frames, so I wonder when that happened. Only 181 frames, so hopefully that's not too much of an issue. But Arkham Knight Catwoman has been announced by UP Find Yours with LPZZ. And I have to be emphatic on the term LPZZ because, as many of you know, who have been following UP Find Yours or UPF and the LPZZ situation, there's been a bit of a shakeup over there in the under UPF. And before we tackle that shakeup, let's talk about this Arkham Knight Catwoman figure, which was not only unveiled with official photos, moving past the tease that they released, like I think last week, along with the Pattinson Batman, but now we got full-blown carousel photos of her in different poses, the accessories that she comes with. This is actually one of many pulled from the Toys Metaverse website, which, funny enough, has better resolution photos than some of the ones that I saw on Instagram, so I'm just going to be utilizing the page here for now. And in my opinion, she looks pretty good. I do have some concerns, but overall, in generalities, she does look pretty good in terms of the way that the body's sculpted. There's definitely quite a bit of segmentation on the joints, but at least it's, considering that the majority of her suit is black, it's able to blend in pretty nicely. I do see them going kind of crazy on the texture in terms of like the leathery look, a little bit of that grip that's happening around this area right here that the LPZZ team already has plenty of expertise and practice with their Arkham Knight Batman, and even a little bit of the Deathstroke, only that was colored differently. Interesting to see how they're going to tackle the lacing of the boots, as you can kind of make out right here. And then we have this overall top-down look of all the things that she's going to come included with, which I'll admit is a little slimmer down than what you'd expect in the prior two LPZZ entries. But what kind of alleviates that, before we continue with the carousel, is that if you actually take the Toys Metaverse page here, for example, you'll see that she is technically amongst some of the, I think that technically, it's still pricey, but I think technically she is the cheapest LPZZ so far at only $80 flat MSRP. And I know I'm using technicalities here because I'm referring to her general MSRP with the shipping and the tariffs withstanding, $80. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe Arkham Knight Batman was actually, we're on the Toys Metaverse. Let's just do it. Type in LPCC and see if we can get kind of, because I know you'll see these prices and be like, oh, those prices are crazy. But the reason for why those are is because, admittingly, I don't know how I truly feel about this, but sometimes sites like Toys Metaverse and what have you, in order to, match costs and kind of help out things, especially with the way the tariffs are going and how sometimes they have to absorb those tariffs and whatnot. And admittedly, it does feel, you know, shitty to have to do this, but at times, sites like, I think, Toys Metaverse, there's a couple of others. I think maybe 5K Toys might do this. Wanted Toys might be another one. I'm not entirely certain, but I do know that Toys Metaverse, if you don't pre-order and they still have some stock left over, they might upcharge a little bit. By a little bit, I mean, a hefty chunk after the fact. So even though if you pre-order, you're looking at initial release for the Arkham Knight Batman was $75, so $5 cheaper. But we have to also remember that this was back in, it says Q3 2025, but when pre-orders launched, I want to say that this was more like late 2024 or early 2025. And since then, we've had, how many tariffs instilled? And then the whole oil situation over there that, has a domino effect into toy manufacturing. So, and overall general inflation. So 75, yeah, this is cheaper than the current Catwoman, but we have to consider the actual time gap being played in here. And then let's look at Deathstroke. He was also 25, and he was about a quarter later. I'm sorry, not 25, 75. So Catwoman being 80, she is cheaper than I thought she'd be. But she is still technically not cheap for 80. And that top-down view does show a little less, not a short amount of stuff, but just a little less than maybe that $80. Just putting things into perspective, I'm wondering. Because you do get quite a good assortment of hands, though I do notice that she comes with an asymmetrical, looks like a right hand. I don't know what she's holding there. I do appreciate that. Well, I'm kind of split because I noticed that one of the pairs of hands is going to have her holding the jewel that she's stealing. And part of me kind of wishes that the jewel was also separated. You do have two versions of the whip, one that's going to be coiled up so that you can then fit into that little holster that she's going to have on the hip. A loose one that's got probably the rubberized kind of wire. Well, here's the thing. It looks like that kind of rubber that you can kind of bend ever so slightly, but it's not. It's kind of like revert back. That's the impression that I'm getting. Personally, kind of wish it was maybe wired so that you can actually articulate it and pose it differently, instead of just having it be the loop, kind of like McFarlane sometimes does with his whips. Pause. That he tosses in with Catwoman, where it's stylized and curved, but it's rubber, so you can it's malleable, but when you let it go, it just goes back to normal. Kind of wish that this was actually wired. And so far, yeah, see? So far, the other pictures kind of insane. Well, actually, hold on. Maybe it is wired. You know what? I take it back. I think it is wired. I take it back. I'm wrong. I think it actually might be wired. Never mind. All right. Situation fixed. You have two heads that are almost identical, save for the goggles being pulled down and being pulled up. And then the want to say they're called baklava, but that's not right because that's a pastry. What's the actual word for the balls that she throws? That's basically her throwables whenever you get to actually play as Catwoman, and she throws those so that you can, knock enemies out. What is that called? But she comes with that. And then, of course, the traditional base that LPZZ has been tossing in with all the Arkham figures. That, again, I still personally feel like it's kind of redundant. I wish that it would say, like, Catwoman on the front instead of just Arkham Knight again, but I digress. And then let's tackle the figure itself, which personally, like I said, I think looks good in terms of, like, the proportions, the suit. There might just be a bit of segmentation happening around the joints that might be a little too obvious. I feel like out of all the areas on the body, it's generally around the arms that looks a little bit too segmented. But it's a damned if you do, damn if you don't situation where it's like, yeah, but how else are you gonna get your articulation in there? But generally, overall, looks pretty flexible. And with a feline character like this, you need her to be. And then posing with the Batman, she's gonna look great. I really wish I didn't see this comment prior to me finally giving my thoughts. Bolas, yes, Anonymous Thank you. I don't know why I said baklava. I do kind of am craving baklava. It's been almost a month since I last had it. It's actually one of my favorite pastries. But yeah, there was a comment that I saw late last night in the LPZZ / UP Find Yours feedback chat on Instagram that I'm actually a part of, where someone did say something that I really wish I didn't see, because it was one of those things that I really wasn't thinking when I was going through the photos and kind of building my impressions in preparation for this stream today. But unfortunately, once I saw the comment, I couldn't unsee it or unthink it, which is that I do think that we need a third head. I do personally feel like we need a third head included in here, because one nitpick that I do have, one little piece of feedback, is that I don't like that both the goggled and non-goggled head sculpts both have the battle damage on her, which I know that lore-wise makes sense because this is supposed to be the Arkham Knight version of Catwoman, and when, if you haven't played the game yet, mild spoilers, even though it's not the biggest, biggest deal of spoilers or whatever. But I do know that when you actually do get first introduced, when she gets dumped right into the story in Arkham Knight, and you get first introduced to her via that Riddler trap, she's got the wounds on her because she's in the middle of a predicament. So she's already got the scars and the bloody gashes on her face. So I know that lore-wise it makes sense, but as a collector, as as an action figure that I would want to purchase, kind of wish I had the option for just a clean face. And I saw a comment in that Instagram chat for the UPF feedback that mentioned that it would be nice to have a third face, or go back into the neutral non-goggle face and give her like a smirk, like a like a flirtation, the way that Selena Kyle is. And there was a liaison, Killzone, who was on I think it was Killzone. It was either Killzone or another user named Garlic, who correspond with UPF. They don't work with UPF, but they talk to them and kind of relay information and feedback over to them, which is the whole function and the purpose of that chat. And they acknowledged it and said, okay, we're going to pass this on to see if that's a thing. The only worry that I have, if they do implement on that, is that will subsequently delay this figure farther back beyond the, what is it? When is it set for release? Ooh, that's interesting. There's no... Oh, here we go. Estimated release date, Q2 to Q3 2026. But they do put in parentheses, subject to change. And I'm wondering if the possibility of that changing is in fact due to that feedback. Because implementing a smirk face actually would go all the way, because admittingly, both faces, like I said before, kind of look identical, except one has the goggles and one doesn't. Maybe her mouth looks a little parted on the goggled one, as you can see kind of from this photo here. I wish I could... Oh, wait, I can. Oh, nice. There you go. It kind of looks a little parted, or not really. Yeah, like I said, they look kind of identical. Only difference is that one has the goggles pulled up and the other one doesn't. The likeness, though, is pretty spot on. And out of this whole carousel of photos, this is personally my favorite. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like it's being carried a little bit by the moody lighting, with the harsh lighting on the right and then softer over here from the front side. But it's definitely helping because I look at this face, I look at the likeness, and I'm like, that legit kind of looks like a render from the game in terms of the features. I did see some of the comments saying that her eyes are a little bit separate apart. Maybe it's because it's pulled from a game, but it doesn't really bother me. I don't feel that way. Like I said, the only comment that I saw that I did resonate with was adding a little bit of a smirk or a personality trait to the face instead of it just being neutral like that. But yeah, that legit looks like, and that's I think another thing that helps out with the separation of the eyes not being as, you know, as much of a standout to me as with others were in that feedback chat was because I always felt like the renders and the designs for the characters in the Rocksteady universe, not just for Arkham Knight but also City and Asylum, is that they always had something that was kind of off to give it a fantastical feeling. Like obviously the physicality of someone like Penguin is can't exist in real life. Like they got a problem. They won't live that long if they were having the same physical traits as the Penguin does. um, and then Joker, I think, is also another prime example where his face is super elongated and gaunt to where it's like super skinny and in a very, like I said, animated fashion. And then Batman is a giant beefcake that has a body that's can only be achieved by mythical Greek gods. Like if you really look at the way that he's designed, no human being on Earth looks like that. And furthermore, when we jumped into Arkham Knight, there was, in my opinion, something also kind of off and a little exaggerated about his actual face whenever he took off the mask. So that's probably why the separation of the eyes don't really bother me all that much, and doesn't really feel like a feedback that I jump on board with. But where I do kind of, like I said, whoa, that was an accident. uh, was that maybe a third head with no wounds and the smirk, or if that's gonna cost too much and that's gonna increase the price and you want to keep it the same, then simply just go into this head and give her the smirk. And I guess for the sake of lure, keep the gashes. Even though I would have preferred without gashes, but if the majority wants to keep that on there, then that's fine. It's not a huge make or break for me. But overall, generally, really great companion piece to go along with Batman. So we got Batman, we got Deathstroke, we got the Arkham Knight, we got Catwoman, and I do believe following her is going to be the Nightwing. Except it'll be interesting to see how that Nightwing gets tackled, because I do know that one of the big developments that actually happened since last week's stream, when I tackled the developments of what happened over there at UP Find Yours following the departure of old Bruce, who was the lead designer over at Fig Trove, and Fig Trove was the team that handled the Dark Knight's Metal series. He has since departed, and Fig Trove has more or less been pretty much absorbed back into LPZZ and have kind of overall simplified everything. And what I genuinely do appreciate was that Spicy Psyduck over on Twitter, if I can find it, it's been a handful of days, so I'm probably gonna have to do a little bit of scrolling here. So bear with me, guys, because he posted a post with the full. Here we go. It was on June 12th. So I think it was literally the night I was already talked about this earlier in the afternoon, and then literally that night I was like, "Bro, you posted this." Blackout Mike, welcome to the stream. Anonymous Stone. Baklava is mad good. My ex is Greek. Hey David, I got the Inart Batman Arkham Origins a few days ago. It's so damn good. Blackout Might, the standard version or the battle damage version? Um, so here, real quick, Spicy Side Dog, literally that night, and it was literally that night, 10 p.m., June 12th. Once I already gave my feelings last week on the whole thing, posted this saying, I just had a brief talk with people from UPF to further clarify the situation, and with their permission, this is the quick summary. So hopefully after this, we can kind of nip everything in the bud and not really need to talk about it anymore. And I know I'm kind of covering up a little bit of it, but I honestly don't know. Actually, hold on. Hold on. I think I have an idea. Damn it. You know what? Just bear with me here. I'll move myself once I get down to the bottom points. Okay, so number one, UPF had 3 designers on the team. Obito, who handled the Arkham series, the Batman. AC, I'm assuming is Assassin's Creed. Otherwise, why mention Arkham over here? Because they didn't say Arkham Knight. They just said Arkham. So I'm going to interpret that as both Arkham Knight and the upcoming Arkham City stuff. The Batman, AC was Assassin's Creed, and Absolute Bat, which the Absolute series is going to be making a comeback here in a few minutes. Old Bruce, which handled the Metal series, and it says BVS, so I'm assuming it was that BVS Batfleck, which did get talked about during the Killzone stream during the Kaiju Daddy stream with Killzone, and I did talk about it last week. That has been since delayed, and those delays may or may not have factored into Old Bruce's departure. And Ed, or Mighty Ed number 1, who's handling Hush and is also collaborating a little bit on the Assassin's Creed stuff. Since Old Bruce has recently departed, a replacement is being arranged. Number 2, going forward, the LPZZ line, mid to high end, will be helmed by Obito, who now takes full creative lead. The Fig Trove line, previously under Old Bruce, will be absorbed into this structure. Number 3, the Arkham Knight series was always Obito and Ed's work, and including the very first Arkham Knight Batman, Old Bruce's involvement was limited to attempting to carve out his own lane with Nightwing at different scales. With his departure, the series design language remains intact and consistent. This is my own personal 2 cents, but I can only imagine or expect that also means that since he didn't involve Catwoman, that's probably why Catwoman is kind of being turned around rather quickly. Because we got that tease, what was it, like early last week? It was early last week, right? And now here we are, a week and 5 days, and pre-orders are already up. You remember there was a time where, like, from that tease to when pre-orders, it was like almost a month, and now week and some change, and it's pre-orders are released, and I'm like, I think that and look how Arkham Knight is also being turned around somewhat, despite only like 5 or 10% of batches getting released to retailers, but they are out there. So I'm like, the Arkham series is actually moving quicker than expected. But I would imagine that the Nightwing is probably going to take a little longer. It's going to get somewhat internally delayed because Old Bruce had some input on that. And apparently some of that input meant that he was kind of screwing around with scales. And now they're like, well, now with him gone, the consistency is going to remain intact. So my own personal belief, my own personal theory is that Nightwing is probably going to be the first one that's going to get a little bit pushed farther down. Number 4, Obito and Ed handled their own 3D work directly. Much of what appeared under Old Bruce was actually driven by LPZZ senior 3D artist TL, with significant support from Obito. Quality continuity is not a concern. UPF's output has always been a collective effort. And I think here's where I'm going to have to... Okay, at number 6, because you guys can still see number 5. The Fig Trove line faced ongoing internal friction. Pricing, scale, and fan disconnect issues were widely flagged by the LPZZ team, and there was considerable pressure behind the scenes to bring it in line with LPZZ's value standard. You don't say. Moving on. And let me go ahead and move my webcam ever so slightly towards the top so you guys can see the last 2 points. Number 6. Certain product delays and cancellations, for example, the CW line, trace back to the same individual. Goddamn, they're laying it out. Including alleged coordination of external pressure campaigns against colleagues, Jesus Christ, echoing patterns from his prior tenure at Inart. Guys, what did I say last week? What did I say? That I got, oh man. And trust me, there's times where I wish I was ignorant because I can see how much happier people are when they're ignorant and stupid. Holy shit, the happiness on their faces. I wish I could be that happy and stupid. Because unfortunately, I've been blessed with knowing, having foresight. What did I say last week? That him being at Inart for only about like a year and some change, and then leaving LPZ, and then leaving that to join LPZZ, but then leaving LPZZ under a year to now jump someplace else. Again, what the vibes that I was feeling. What did I say last week? It's like the equivalent of like someone applying for a job. I'm interviewing them, looking at their resume, and then through the work experience, there's a bunch of work experience entries, but each entry is only like a few months, a year and 2 months, 7 months, a year and 4 months. Maybe you'll get a 2 year here, but then you'll get one where it's only been like 3 months, and then you'll probably get an entry that was only like a few weeks. And I'm like, I'm sorry, bro, but like I'm looking at you kind of suspect. As opposed to someone who's probably only got like 1 or 2 job entries in the work experience, but each one is like 5 or 6 years. It's like, all right, something stuck. Why did you move on? Or why do you want to move here? But at least, you stuck around. So I'm trusting you more than the other guy. And unfortunately, this old Bruce kind of gave off that vibe when I was talking about him last week, where I'm like, you joined Inart, made their Christian Bale Batman. You had all this other stuff. You got all these other things lined up, and yet you jump out of nowhere to LPZ. But now you're jumping even quicker away from LPZ. I'm like, and I'm not saying, I'm looking at like these things that you're outputting, and like Christian Bale Batman was a 9 out of 10, and then initially I was pretty happy with Batman Who Laughs, but as you guys saw from that photo, Red Death, kind of a different story. And now with this departure and some of this information coming to light, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of looking at UPF less, and I'm raising more of an eyebrow on old Bruce. And as some of you guys said in the chat last week, it would be hilarious if we find out, we obviously don't know anything, but it would be hilarious if we find out that this bastard is now working for like Mattel on the collector's line for DC. I'm like, you son of a bitch. Yeah. Well, anyways, our final point here, number 7, the full reason for the departure remains pending an official statement. Again, everything that I just said right now, purely speculation, but I'm definitely getting some sus feelings from this old Bruce. The hope from LPZZ's side is that things stay civil. It's a small community, and at the end of the day, this is all meant to be fun for the fans. Yeah, like I said, I don't feel anything like, kids like to say these days, sus from LPZZ. I'm looking, a bit more skeptical and sideways at old Bruce here. Old Brucey Bruce. Like, bro, what gives? And yeah, so he compiled this little like brief sort of breakdown of what everything's happened over there at UPF, and that's pretty much where things leaves us. And at this point going forward, it looks like that's them sort of unveiling Catwoman along with that initial tease last week of the Pattinson Batman is kind of their way of saying, hey, let's move forward. things didn't work out with old Bruce. The Fig Trove team is getting absorbed. We don't want to have that talent go to waste. And we're simply just going to focus on what our strengths are right now, which is the Arkham series, which is the live action stuff with Pattinson Batman, and going forward and seeing if maybe they could take some of the things that were getting kind of finagled there with Bruce and his leadership, like the Batflick Batman, the BVS Batman, and the Arkham Nightwing, and see if those things can be salvaged, which I personally feel like they can. Especially the Arkham Nightwing, since the Arkham series has a great batting average going on right now that it's like, how can they not do it? Especially with that team. Standard version, I will get the battle damage too. The LPZZ Arkham Knight is so cool. It drove me to get the platinum for Arkham Knight after all these years. The, the figure motivated you to get the platinum? Bro said Exhibit A. And then, real quick before I close Spicy Psyduck's feed, I could have sworn he had something else that I could. Well, kind of, but at the same time, the shots are pretty identical to what I have pulled up from Reddit over here. So I guess I'll just leave it at Reddit. All right. And like I said, we're moving on quickly because I spent way too much time in the preliminaries talking about some other shit that I really do want to tackle this next topic, which I gotta be honest, almost kind of forgot about it, considering that, again, the information coming down from some of the events happening over there in China that Inart is or is not attending has been kind of muddy, because you would think that Hong Kong having their very first Comic-Con event, I think towards the end of May, that Inart would probably have some kind of booth or display set up for that, only for the days to move past and nothing to nothing to show up on the socials, whether it be through Reddit, Facebook, or even some of the Chinese apps over there like RedNote or Bilibili to turn up. And this comes on the heels of this event that they went to a couple weeks prior to that, where they only had like 2 figures on display that were part of their Inart Action division at the 1/12 scale. One of which was the one that we already knew about, which was Batman Who Laughs, and then the other one was a Black Myth Wukong figure. Now, I can't really speak too much for the 1/6 scale stuff, because I think in the background you can make out some like the Michael Jackson figure, the Walking Dead stuff, and even more Black Myth Wukong stuff in that event that from the beginnings or middle of May. I honestly cannot remember what it was called, but it was one where a lot of us were pretty disappointed to see that there was only like 2 photos released, and then that was it. And we were like, okay, what were they not allowed to take photos? Was there some kind of embargo? What was the case? So with that track record and that prior experience, expectations were incredibly tempered to the point of practically being non-existent, at least for me, regarding this thing called The Moment, which is an event or an exhibition that Inart wanted to do as a form of like a pop-up in, I'm probably butchering this city's name. It's called Hangzhou. I don't want to say Hangzhou because that sounds super American, but basically it was at the Gonglian CC Mall, and here's the address, from June 17th, so it started a couple days ago, to June 28th. And it's meant to be a pop-up that people can visit. And it's called Inart, The Moment. And it says right here, Inart is officially landing in a pop-up form in Hangzhou for the very first time, and to celebrate, we are inviting you to step into a limited time immersive experience. Step beyond the screen and experience the artistry of collectible figures up close like never before. Experience how our artisans turn burning passion into reality through world-class collectibles. To me, it just didn't sound like that big of a deal. It didn't really sound like uh, it was, to be honest, very action figure focused. It felt more like a Queen Studios thing than anything else. Like the language and the language that was being utilized, it just kind of gave me more statue vibes, more like replica vibes. It just didn't really do anything for me to keep in my radar and made me think, oh, something's gonna pop up from this, and that, no pun intended, and that coupled with just how slightly disappointing some of the other events that they could have attended, whether it be Hong Kong Comic Con, HK Comic Con, let's call it that because it's a mouthful, or the prior event where they said that they were going to show up only a couple of photos to release, one of which was already a figure that we've already seen uh, before in a very professional capacity, and pre-orders were already open for it. Lo and behold, I think a day or two later, because this was posted like almost 2 weeks ago. I got to be completely honest here and blunt. I totally disregarded this, only for again 2 days ago. Is it this one? Oh, yeah, I wanted to read this, but we'll tackle that later. Only for 2 or 3 days ago, for Rogue 1994 to post these photos that were apparently lifted from X. They could have been from Spicy Side Duck or some other user. I don't know. I just know that it was somebody, Chinese resident, who attended the event. Move my webcam slightly there. Who attended the event and managed to post some of these photos. I almost want to say either on RedNote or one of those Chinese social media platforms based on the little number and watermark that you kind of see there at the bottom of the corner, the bottom right corner. And lo and behold, they actually did have some more stuff to show that hasn't resurfaced in a really long time. Among them is Dawnbreaker, aka corrupted or evil Green Lantern Batman at the 1/12 scale, which I did see the prototype of back in 2024. So this figure's been cooking for a while. Back in 2024, when I attended their San Diego Offsite Comic Con event in 2024. And now it does look like the figure's got a little bit of a touch up regarding like these translucent plastic bits here on the chest. I don't remember that being on the prototype. It looked like it was more like molded into the plastic and was much more solid. And then most definitely there were no kinds of display effects like the tentacles, like the Cthulhu like tentacles that he's got propped up on, as well as the little what's the construct that he's developing here that looks very monstrous in front of him. Didn't have any of that. And does the next photo show more? No, it doesn't. This is the only one right here. So we got more appearances being made by the Inart Action Dark Knight's Metal stuff ever since 2024. Because if I'm not mistaken, I don't think they even showed anything last year from Dark Knight's Metal. I think it was just 2024. So yeah, and he wasn't the only one. Oh my god, I keep forgetting that arrows don't work on Reddit. Devastator, also from Dark Knight's Metal, aka Batman fusing with Doomsday or taking Doomsday's powers, what have you, and turning into this, which looks like a chunky boy. Another figure that I also did see the prototype of in 2024. I don't remember this piece on his arm. I wonder if it's going to be like swappable, or because I remember it being just another arm with a hand and claws like this one over here. So they definitely put him in a much more dynamic pose. Interesting how the articulation is going to be implemented at this size, because it looks like, judging by the fellows in the back, hmm, My bad. Once again, mom's just floating around in the hallway because she wants to. Um, yeah, but I'm interested to see how, because it looks like he's almost mega figure size if we're using McFarlane Toys sizing. Because even though they're trying to stay faithful to the 112th, if you're gonna do that, you also can't shrink him down because it's not gonna make any sense. So it's looking like he's gonna be about yay. So it's gonna be weighty. It's probably, I'm gonna make the prediction here that this guy, I know that, oh man, I almost don't want to jinx it, but I'm probably gonna say it. You know how right now you have how much? Hold on. How much is the Red Death Inart Red Death? Let's use that as an example. How much is he going for on like Toys Metaverse and 1/6 kit? I don't want to count Big Bad Toy Store because I know that Big Bad Toy Store being whatchamacallit, an American company, they're gonna be of course adding tariff surcharges baked into the price. So I don't want to use that. I don't think it's fair. But let me go into, I guess, an example. Ooh. Wait, is he already out? No, this is a pre-order, right? Is it pre-order or is it? No, yeah, 'cause it says September. What the hell? Oh yeah, it is pre-order. Okay, okay. Um, so how much is this in dollars? Because Hobby Genki is showing me a yen count. 94, 84, $10 difference. So Toys Metaverse, for example, has it for $84. And this is before shipping, before tariffs, etc. Hobby Genki is showing yen, but I converted it and it turns into basically $94, $10 more. So the shipping might be a little cheaper, or maybe they're baking in some of the tariffs that they have to absorb. Who knows? So $85 to $95. Let's just say that. $85 to $95. It's barely kissing triple digits. It's barely kissing the triple digit count, which means I can personally guarantee you guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm cursing it. This guy, should he officially get released, because officially he hasn't gone up for pre-order yet. And the reason why I say yet is because right now, if you go over to the Inart website and go into the Inart Action pages, the division there for the 112 stuff, they actually are teasing product pages for this guy and the Dawnbreaker. The tease pages, as they like to put with like the silhouette photo, they're actually already up. But here's the thing. Don't be disappointed when I tell you guys that I am predicting that Devastator here, considering how massive he is and how much space he's going to be taking up in the box and how big the box is going to have to be. This is probably going to be our first triple digit Inart action figure. And when I say triple digit, I'm talking about directly import price. So if Red Death is going for $85 to $95 on import sites, that then jumps to about 100, 105 with like shipping and the tariffs and taxes. And I checked right now, the Inart Red Death is going for like 140 or 135 on Big Bad Toy Store. So that's already triple digits in American fan channels like BBTS. Then this guy, get ready for it to be on Toys Metaverse for 115, maybe 120. And then BBTS, 165, 170. Yeah, nearing $200 if the sizing is to be believed. And based on these initial photos, my wrist just cracked. Holy shit! Ow! That's what that crack was. That was my wrist. But based on this, very in-person photo that is admittedly a little crude, because at the end of the day, it is an exhibition. You have people there that are just kind of like passing by and taking photos with their phone and whatnot. So it's not in the professional capacity, but there is a sense of authenticness to the way that the figures look like, because they're not being like purposely lit with something that's focused in one direction so that they can emphasize detail and whatnot. This is like how a figure is going to traditionally look out in the wild. And by this photo alone, I can tell that they are going absolutely fucking crazy on that detail, on that sculpt. I'm genuinely loving what I'm seeing in terms of the actual artistry at hand. And looking at that face, oh yeah, it legitimately looks awesome. Regardless of whatever kind of liberties Inart is taking, because as I mentioned before, when it comes to the Dark Knight's metal line, Inart is definitely doing something a little bit different. They're not pulling and just replicating one-to-one the designs from the comics. That's more so what UPF was doing with Fig Trove. Whether or not they're going to continue doing that going forward with other characters, considering what's happened with Fig Trove and how it got absorbed, who knows? But right now I can tell that Inart is doing something just a little bit different, that they're like, yeah, this is not a faithful, accurate representation. We're simply just going with cool looking designs that just look badass. And even though I do feel like Red Death sometimes looks a little too Power Ranger-y with his design, Dawnbreaker in that previous photo, and more so this Devastator, I gotta be honest, I'm willing to skirt that whole accuracy deal out the window, considering how badass they look. Yeah. And then some more Wukong stuff in the 112th. So that's present there. And I technically did pull up a second page that gives us a slightly more sharp and cleaner look and less blown out look at the Dawnbreaker there. So you have that there. I do notice that now that the construct actually has a bit of a beam kind of coming out of it. So that's pretty cool. I didn't see that in the prior photo. They did have, once again, the Batman Who Laughs up right there. That's already up for pre-order. So of course I'm gonna showcase that guy. Some of their Morphig diorama pieces that you can utilize as basis. In my opinion, my favorite one will probably be this one right here, that is very likely supposed to be mimicking the burnt down piece of rubble from The Dark Knight, from that iconic blue shot after Rachel dies and she's giving her voiceover. That beautiful shot. You're pretty much able to replicate that with that piece there. So that's dope. I don't really recognize these other parts personally, but pretty neat. And what gives me the impression that at the very least, Devastator might actually be right around the corner for pre-order, not for launch, not for release, but for pre-order launch, is the fact that they already have a box mock-up drawn out for his actual product box. And he's being sandwiched in here between Red Death and Batman Who Laughs, who are already up for pre-order. And some people are actually already getting him in hand over there overseas. Granted, I don't know if they're actual customers or if they're influencers. They're likely influencers. But just the fact that, based on what I'm reading here, the fact that Red Death and Batman Who Laughs already got product boxes and now Devastator's right there, I would assume that between Devastator and Dawnbreaker, Devastator's probably going to be the next one up for pre-order. Do not be surprised if in like the next week or so they tease Devastator and they're like, hey, pre-orders go up June 30th or July 2nd, something like that. So yeah, and then right there is the Arkham Origins Batman, which is also not only up for pre-order, but I think it's kind of already getting released, at least as far as the standard edition. Which brings me to a mini rant, very quick mini rant, because my life is a comedy that just insists on screwing me in every way, shape, or possible. That who else was talking here? Blackout Mike, that you got the standard version. Where did you get them from? Because I actually did get the invoice for my unit of the standard edition of the Arkham Knight. The Arkham Origins Batman, and it was from Bombasby. And I got that notice last Tuesday on the 8th, and they told me that you got 10 days to pay off the invoice so that I can ship it. But lo and behold, I waited until Wednesday night, 9 days, to pay it off. And the reason for why I waited so long to pay it off is because literally the day that I got the day that I got the invoice from Bombasby for that Arkham Origins Batman, the 112th from Inart, I also got a response from Inart regarding what their plans are for a San Diego Comic Con event, similar to what they've done in the past 2 years. In the correspondence, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but let's just say that their intent, details are still TBD, but their intent is to do it again, like they've done in the past couple of years. And not only that, but they also plan on possibly doing both an offsite event, like the one that I attended last year and the year before, and hopefully I can attend this year as well, and maybe like a booth or a pop-up sort of display inside Comic-Con proper. Well, all right, cool. Within that same thread, I inquired about what the status was of me getting a unit for Arkham Origins Batman to cover on the channel. He responded saying that we actually... Well, actually, you know what? Let me just show it off. Can I show it off without... In that same email, he said, "Hey, we got some things to here. Are you interested in covering it?" And I said, "Sure." I'm trying to show it specifically so that I don't show the shipping information here. Now, what is this? Is this the Arkham Origins Batman? Yeah, but if you look at this model number right here, it says MAG G007 0007. If you look that number up, you'll find that this is actually the Arkham Origins Batman Battle Damage Edition. Shout out to Inart. They sent over the Arkham Origins Battle Damage version. And most definitely I will be covering it in a video. But here's the thing. I also would, in terms of the video in and of itself, I wanted to see if I can cover both the battle damage and the standard version in the same video. And effectively they're the same figure, except, one's going to have the battle damage deco and what have you. So my brain process was, I want to cover both. But I need to know is, they sent over the battle damage version, and pretty quick too. They chose... I can only imagine how much the shipping was. So again, I'm grateful. I'm supremely grateful for this. Thank you, Inart. Thank you for sending it for coverage on the channel, because it's not just a figure, but also it was like next day air UPS, because within like 2-3 days of getting the tracking number to the email, they were like, "Hey, it's ready for pickup at the location that I sent it to." I was like, Jesus. But I noticed it's the battle damage edition, so I inquired about the standard version, and I probably in preparation with the event that's going on right now in China, that pop-up that they got displayed, along with an upcoming holiday that's actually kickstarting today, going into Sunday. So it's a shorter holiday as opposed to like lunar year break. It's only 3 days. With all that going on, I never heard back from Inart if whether or not I'm going to be able to secure a standard edition. So meanwhile over here, I have an invoice sitting saying, "Hey, you're going to pay it off? You're going to pay it off from Bombasby." And I'm trying to figure out, should I pay this off, or do I have one that is, technically free of charge coming from Inart that they're providing? So I'm like, I need to know, that way I can cancel the pre-order or pay the pre-order off. I'm at a standstill. And that's why it took so long for me to pay off the invoice after getting the email like a week, like almost 10 days prior. So since I got no response, because like I said, they're probably busy and what have you, at the 11th hour, Wednesday night, the day before they didn't threaten, but they were telling me, hey, if you don't pay by the 18th, we're going to cancel. Last night, or no, I'm sorry, not last night, Wednesday night, I pay it off. And Bombasby says, okay, thank you for the payment. It's been confirmed. We'll let you know when we ship it. So we're coming up on 2 days since I paid it off, and I'm like, I wonder how long it's going to take. Only for a light bulb to turn on and go back to what I just said. That Chinese holiday, like the Chinese boat festival holiday, whatever it's called, I'm like, oh no. I go into Bombasby's official Instagram, and sure enough, there's a notice that says, hey, happy Chinese boat festival holiday. We're pretty much suspending all functions until Monday. See you then, including shipping. So I have to wait even longer. And judging by how long sometimes things change, because I chose UPS by air, and if it's this size, then I guess I would say it would take somewhere around the realm of like a week to ship. But if it's shipping Monday, then we're looking at like what? Let me look at the calendar here on my computer. So if we're looking at best case scenario when they come back, the 22nd, we're looking at the 29th or the 30th, maybe even the 1st of July. I'm like, man, this thing is a way off. That's a ways off. So I'm over here like, all right, that whole idea of wanting to feature both the standard and the battle damage in the same video, do I just scrap that and just cover the battle damage by itself? Or do I just wait until that one comes in? So yeah, right when I pay this goddamn thing off, Bombasby's like, thank you. By the way, we're going on vacation, so see you when we get back. God damn it. But like I said, I'm thankful that Inart sent this. They didn't have to do that. They didn't. So I'm thankful. It is what it is. It happens. Now, like I said, my life is a comedy. The whole universe loves to fuck with me. So I'm telling you right now, do not be surprised that Monday, when this holiday goes through, because I know some of you are in the chat are probably thinking the same thing. Watch. Do you guys want to bet money? You guys want to bet some moolah on this? Some shekels? How much you want to bet? Monday comes. Bombasby ships my order. Cool. It's probably going to take about a week and 2 days, 10 days or so. Same day, since they're back from holiday, whoever handles the correspondence over there at Inart says, oh yeah, I got a spare standard edition Arkham Origins. Here, let me send it to you. And I know. Grateful, and at the end of the day, that Bombasby order that comes in, when it comes in, keep it in box, keep it in the shipper even, and either you can list it to get your money back. I was gonna say do a giveaway, but I gotta be honest, guys, money's tight. I actually do need to sell it. I wish I could do a giveaway. My heart says giveaway, but my brain's like, nah, you need the money. I would probably, no, yeah, because I think shipping will like cost more. So, because I was gonna say, ship it back to Bombasby. Just tell me like, hey, I didn't open it. I got duplicates. Um, can I start up a return? That's probably gonna take even longer, and they're probably gonna charge me for the shipping. So I might as well list it up on like eBay or something. So it'll go towards somebody who actually wants it. That's if that scenario happens. So now I'm actually kind of hoping that Inart responds saying, actually, we don't have any spare standard editions, just the battle damage. I'll be like, all right, cool, that's fine. Members only giveaway. Like I said, I genuinely do wish I could do a giveaway, but money wise, we're hurting. Me and my girlfriend we're hurting, so it's like, yeah. And I know that I sound like a hypocrite after saying that. Oh, then why did you pay off the standard edition? Because it is going towards the channel. This is a return of investment, and whatever I do here on the channel, since it is, the videos are monetized and there is monetization being pulled from the channel, no matter how small it may be, it's an ROI. ROI, return of investment. If it was like a vanity purchase, I'm like, no, let it go. Which is why I canceled so many Hot Toys. So yeah, for those of you watching in the chat, please, for those of you watching and are commenting in the chat, or if you even not commenting in the chat, please tell me in the comment section. And I might do a poll like early next week after I get my Red Death review out of the way. I might post a poll anyways and ask the general community, should I wait for that standard edition to come in so I can compare them both on camera or feature them both on camera? Or should I just say fuck it and just cover the battle damage by itself? Because I know that there's frankly not that many videos. Actually, let me check just for shits and giggles, because I don't believe there's any reviews on the battle damage yet. So maybe taking advantage of that is the way. Let me see. Inart battle damaged Arkham Batman. I'm not even gonna type in origins. Let me just see. Oh no, what am I thinking? Of course, the one and only Justin's Collection already did a video. That's the thing, is like, if there's... Okay, so we got Justin's Collection, which pretty much takes up like 90% of American audiences because he speaks English. He lives in China, but he speaks English, so there's that. There is this, what appears to be a Chinese review from Toys Labs, but it's Chinese because it's got a bunch of Chinese characters in the title, so I'm imagining that it's a Chinese reviewer. And then I get just the standard Inart. Unparalleled Universe did a review. So far I'm counting 3 reviews just for the battle damage version. And then 2 months ago they did an unboxing video, Inart officially, and that doesn't count. It's not really much one. Because now I'm starting to see like a lot of like 1 minute, 2 minute videos. I'm like, how are those even reviews? Are they like showcases, or what are those? Yeah, I guess that's really about it. And then the rest is just a standard edition. So 3 reviews only. It's actually small enough that it kind of makes me consider just doing the standard review and getting it out. Do both? What do you mean by do both? Wait and compare both, Anonymous Throne says? Is that what you mean, Blackout? That just wait for the standard edition comes in and compare both? Personally, wait. I'd love to see them side by side. Okay, you guys are... That's already 3 votes. I'll probably still do a vote, but you guys are convincing me to just wait. I thought that Justin guy was Australian. He has an Australian accent. I think it is. I think he is Australian, but he moved to China. Because every time he talks about his going-ons right now, whenever he pops up on streams, he says, oh, I'm going to the Hong Kong store. And, I'm like, he can just walk to the, what's it called, Rebel Base for Hot Toys? It's like, yeah, he lives in Hong Kong. Yeah, we prefer to wait. All right. just for the sake of posterity, I'll do a poll. But from what I can tell, there's probably going to be a good chance that most of the people in that poll are going to say the same thing. Just wait to compare side by side. So, okay. And, technically, I was told, because this rarely ever happens, but hey, they did say this. So I was like, all right, cool. There is technically an embargo for the battle damage, so I have to wait for that anyway. It's just that my OCD thinks that, oh, the embargo is like for a certain date, so my review should be published at that date. Because I'm always thinking like movie reviews, game reviews, where they're like, oh, the embargo lifts on this date, which means that by then you should have already the review written, filmed, edited, uploaded even, and then you just hit the publish or you have it scheduled to publish once the embargo lifts and you're safe to go. So that would be Monday the 29th, I was told. But like I said, if I want to wait for this thing to ship anyways, for the standard edition, then yeah, I guess I might as well wait and hope that I can cover both at the same time. I guess one thing that I can do, if that's the case, is that technically I can still crack open the battle damage, which I have to do on camera because they have the whole like return policy thing. I have to do that anyways, so I have to wait to do that anyways, and mess with the figure and still kind of develop impressions of the buck. If that makes any sense, since they're kind of more or less the same figure except one's got the battle damage. And I think the big thing about the battle damage version is that he's got the electro gloves, the electrocutioner gloves, and the standard version doesn't. But apart from that, there's kind of the same thing. So I can kind of get a jump of how I feel about the figure preemptively. And then when the standard edition comes in, I really just have to like compare, build my opinions of which one I like best, and did the battle damage deco or aesthetic work on the battle damage version versus the standard, and which one looks a little bit more showy, has better presence, etc. And then finally film my video. That way I don't feel so behind. They have different accessories, like way more than just the electrocutioner gloves. If anything, that kind of further emphasizes that we should probably wait to do the comparison and wait for that one to come in before filming. All right. And like I said, the main peeve I have is the fact that this, of course, happens right when this holiday goes through. Yep. Yeah, way more. God damn it. I'll take a look at the like top down photo to see exactly what each one comes with and seeing if that's gonna factor or do anything with that. Now, the LPZZ UPF Find Yours stuff that we kind of touched upon last week is not the only thing that's kind of making a revisit. Because this stream and this segment in particular, along with the LPZZ UPF stuff, are serving as form of like companion piece, as a form of a companion piece to the last stream. Because in that last stream, we did talk about some leaks that were being dug up in the form of a document, a very meticulously, spreadsheet designed graphic complete with like neon coloring, breaking down some figures that might be turning up in the system within the next month or so. That made me think that if there was one big event that McFarlane can definitely take advantage of in showcasing some of these things and making a giant splash, would be San Diego Comic-Con. They've done it a number of times in the past. They have some kind of panel where they show off traditionally 3D renders. And wouldn't you know it, that some of those 3D renders may or may not have been leaked via, I want to say, a Spanish site, judging by the language here. At first I thought it was Portuguese, but now reading it, I'm like, I should know this. I speak Spanish, so I don't know why it was that it was taking me a while to pick this out. But wouldn't you know it, amongst these 3D renders are in fact three figures that were on that leak list. Three of which were making ginormous rounds on social media because these are in fact designs for figures that people have been wanting for the better part of a year now. And among them is, of course, one that I also pretty much desire: Absolute Batman. A 3D render of the McFarlane Toys Absolute Batman is, in fact, circulating out there. And here it is. Of course, expect it to be immensely blurry with a bunch of watermarks all over that are meant to combat leakage, but that's not really going to stop anybody. And of course, with the little label here saying that it is in fact the prototype, not final. And I believe this reads McFarlane DC Multiverse Universo Absolute. I should say Absoluto. Batman 7 pulgadas, 7 inch. Visión general del productor. So general look of the product. So this is practically what they're aiming for. And also utilizing, it's curious that they're using two specific covers here. I can't remember what issue this is, if I'm being honest. The numbers are a little bit blurred out. I believe this is issue number 2 or 3, because it was like right at the beginning. But effectively, they're utilizing his design from the suit that he has in like the second or third issue, where it's got a bit more like Kevlar padding going on with his bat symbol, and the spikes are, I think, a little longer, and he's got the axe. So they're going with that look, because if they were going for like the look that he had in the very first issue, I think his suit is a little bit more played down. There's not as much armoring. You know, those little like that grid design to his the main bat symbol is not present there. So they're going with that look. And then over on here on the side, they're showing off this cover because that's where they're pulling some of the accessories, specifically this buzzsaw and whatever that mask is that goes on his head, which I'm praying is removable, because I do feel a little concerned seeing that the render shows him with that breathing mask of some kind attached to him, which is likely his way to kind of combat whatever toxin or hallucinogen or whatever it is that Poison Ivy is using, because that's supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, absolute Poison Ivy. And he's utilizing the buzzsaw to kind of cut away the vines. But you see here that the 3D render also shows off said buzzsaw and the mask. If I am a betting man, I would argue that, judging by the fact that he's only got those two things and they're going for a very niche, specific design to his suit, this is meant to be the standard DC Multiverse 7-inch single card release of Absolute Batman. In other words, the one that was at the very top of the leak list. The one that was also featured with the rest of the Trinity. Featured here. You have Absolute Superman. So you have the prototype render here with the suit. I was going to complain that I do feel like they kind of skinny-fied him a little bit, but then looking at the cover, it looks like it's pretty on point. God damn, he's got cake. Look at that. Anyways, that, along with the tattered up cape, the mullet-like haircut, of course, like I said, a little bit on the blurry side, but it definitely looks like they're mimicking the suit, albeit adding a little bit of a shininess to the blue parts of his suit. So interesting to see how that's going to be fully rendered out in 3D format once the figure comes out. But being that this is the DC Multiverse standard, you don't really expect too much. And also, you see right here, art card and round base ×1, which means this is meant to be the DC Multiverse single card release at, what is it, like $25 now in general places, or $26.99 if you're buying from GameStop or the official site. However, he is going to come with extra hands. Now, what are those extra hands going to be, considering that in the render he's got fists, but then over here they're fists again? So hopefully this is just a placeholder, and then later down the line you're going to be like, oh, it's going to be flight hands. So hopefully it's just a placeholder. It's going to be changed up. And then a similar situation is happening over here with uh, Wonder Woman, pulled from the Absolute Wonder Woman with the design and, of course, the little skirt design that she's got going on right there with one piece of armor on the left. The what's more or less pretty much the Buster Sword that she carries. Art card, round base, Buster Sword, extra set of hands. I'd imagine that that is a placeholder because even though we don't see it with Superman, she, I guess in the 3D render, whoever designed the 3D render did in fact have time to come up with the extra hands here, because I believe she's going to come with holding hands by default because they look a little more open to hold the Buster Sword. And then her extra pair is going to be the fists, well, one fist on the right and then an open hand on the left. That's going to be her bonus. So yeah. Soup's got to be voluptuous. It's his Kryptonian DNA. It's a must. Likely. So it looks like they managed to actually like materialize that in the 3D render over here for Wonder Woman, but they didn't get a chance for Superman. So, like you mentioned, Scalar Bones, it might be like an open hand. Being that it's Superman, I'm like, all right, you should have open both flight hands, like he's flying. But yeah, so we got our first look at the Trinity, and of course, out of all three of these, the one that has shown the most interest on is going to be Absolute Batman. But if this is what's going to be included in the single card release, I will admit it's going to be a little scummy because they know that at the end of the day, if you want to have a definitive form of Absolute Batman, if any, I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword, a double-edged Buster Sword. This photo right here is pretty much confirming that there is going to be an Elite Edition Absolute Batman. Because if this is our single card basic release, and he only comes with the buzzsaw and a very specific look that he had in the latter issues, not in the first issue that he first got introduced in, but he's got the look of the padded up bat symbol, but he doesn't come with the axe. He comes with a buzzsaw, and God forbid if that breathing mask is molded on and it's not removable, because again, this is a 3D render, and the fact that they rendered it with him on instead of off to the side like they traditionally do, like I said, kind of confirms that there is going to be an Elite Edition. Because why would they shoot themselves in the foot by having the standard version, DC Multiverse $25 version, $26 version, having the stuck on breathing mask? Because look over here, here's the $60 Elite Edition, and it's going to be the tried and true Absolute Batman with standard head sculpt, standard cape, standard version of his suit from the very first issue that maybe has modular pieces to then add the gold parts. And it's in that bundle at $60 that's going to come with the axe, that's going to come with batarangs, that's going to come with whatever it is that he uses in that first like 6 or so months run of the Absolute series. Because again, the buzzsaw is a very weird choice. Unless there's going to be another Absolute Batman. And this more or less, in my opinion, confirms it. So yeah. So it's good to see that they're definitely moving forward with the Absolute series, but I'm a little bummed out to see that Batman is actually going to get a very business-focused sort of approach with this standard version, because it pretty much says, yeah, if you want to cut costs, you're dealing with a Batman that's got a giant red tube stuck in his face. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I didn't even, guys, swear to God, I did not look at the comments. Swear to God, I didn't look at the comments. First top voted comment. Does Batman not come with his axe, or is it price locked behind a stick? And I know I have to get it because it's goddamn Batman, and Absolute Batman does look cool, but I'm like, Why do they include the buzzsaw instead of his axe? Oh, wait. I made a mistake. So Todd can sell you a different version that comes with it later. And some people are already pointing it out. In that leak list, there was an Elite Edition. And that Elite Edition is going to come with that axe. Mark my words. So, yeah. But, like I said, one positive takeaway is to know that these renders have been leaked, which then means that these renders are being materialized. And what event coming up makes the most amount of sense for these renders to be then showcased to the public in grand, non-watermarked form? San Diego Comic-Con. So my money is that San Diego Comic-Con, we're going to have our McFarlane Toys panel, and within it, they're going to show off the Absolute Series, including that Elite Edition, which is probably going to be the version that I'm going to opt in for immediately. Despite the grievance that they're more or less price locking that definitive look behind Elite Edition. But from a business standpoint, did you expect anything different? Come on, Todd, put all your Tadasi into this. Tadasi? I never heard of that one before. And that's the thing, all right, you're going to be charging $60 for that Elite Edition. All right, charge us $60. Just like Skelly Bones said it right here, put your whole Tadasi into it. You know, give us a felt good cape that's cloth, not that nylon shed, cloth. It's got not just 2 wires, but maybe 4. Go ahead and go all the way and maximizing the wireage, since you've seen those designs of Absolute Batman. That cape go crazy. Put more wiring into it, because it's going to be giant. He's going to be a very hefty guy, probably about the dimensions of Doomslayer from the Dark Ages Elite Edition, that very first Elite Edition you guys released. That size, maybe make him a little smidge taller, kind of like the size of that Devastator from back in 2021. That cape needs to be a little wider, extra wires, extra girth to the armor plating, of course that axe, the buzzsaw, some swappable pieces to maybe add those golden parts. What else? Hold on. This might be a terrible example. Maybe have the cape overall be swappable between a standard cape and then swappable spikes to make them a little bit bigger than they are in the first issue. And then, like I said, make the cape swappable between a standard version and then the super tenderly looking one. This one. So here's an example. And like I said, probably the worst example, since I'm comparing it to like a $400 figure like the Hot Toys here. But it's the best way that I can exemplify here. The way that this cape has right here with the wires. Like this. So swap it between this version of the cape and then a standard normal cloth cape. Have this version maybe be plastic. Rubberized plastic. But then give us a standard wired cloth cape. Since you're charging for Elite Edition, that's what I expect. Is it likely going to happen? Probably not. But for $60, and considering that, hey, it looks like Absolute Batman doesn't really rely too much on batarangs, it's mostly the axe, then okay, axe, buzzsaw, and then 2 swappable capes between a standard felt good wired one that he can just naturally drape, and then the one that looks like this that could be plastic. Kind of like you did with that, God, what was that Batman? I'm blanking on the name. What was that Batman? That was made by, hold on, it was McFarlane Gold Label Batman 2 capes. It was the, it came with 2 capes, one plastic and one felt good. Not the year 2 Batman, because you guys are probably thinking year 2. No, it was, I covered it. It was, and it was a McFarlane Toy Store exclusive for like a little while before they finally dropped it in Amazon, I think. It was the one that had too much cape. What was it called? Go to my channel. See if I can find it. Night People Batman. This one. Something like this. This guy. I covered him on the channel. Something like this with the cape. Where the tenderly one could be the plastic one, and then the standard draping one with wire. But not nylon like this one, an actual cloth. Because it's Elite Edition, we're paying Elite price. Felt cloth. Like the recent God, what was it? The DC Rebirth Batman DC Rebirth Robin that I featured in my Mattel core line comparison. That Robin that I used there, the way that cape feels like, that's what I want in Elite Edition. If I'm paying Elite price, that's what I expect out of a draping wired cape. Come on, man. It's Elite Edition. We're paying higher prices. And since he's probably not going to come with anything else, like no batarangs, maybe some alternate hands, but no batarangs, just the axe, maybe some spikes that you can add on top, but that's it, then I think you should go out on the capes. That's just me. Don't like those rubber capes, Black Out Mike? I know, but I'm just thinking of like what they could see as cost effective that I'm willing to compromise on. I'm not the biggest fan of them either, but it's the one thing that I'm like, if you're gonna do something, do that. Oh, that's right. There is gonna be a Blockies Absolute Batman. It's true. But yeah, if McFarlane's gonna lose the license, Absolute Batman would actually be, or the Absolute Trilogy, Trinity rather, would probably be the set to go out on. Makes sense. That along with the recent Fraction Jimenez 2025 Batman, I still want that. Those are the two. Give me those. There's still plenty of other versions of Batman that I would have liked for them, but the two that make sense to go out on, those are the two. And if they don't do those two, it's gonna be honestly a big shot in the foot. Okay. Guys, I'm out of here. Not only that, but I don't know, something's going on with my Wi-Fi because I'm dropping frames. And I have not dropped frames almost ever. I was gonna say it was maybe this new internet by Spectrum but then again, last week's stream was also Spectrum after swapping it from Frontier, and last week didn't have this problem. So I don't know what gives. But I am tired. I'm starting to get a little hungry. A lot of air in my stomach. That's why I'm burping a lot because I'm now hungry. And also I think we're within the vicinity of my dad coming home, and again, he's kind of a douche. So, if I'm doing something like this, he'll purposely try to ruin it. He doesn't care for it, so it is what it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and start wrapping this up so I can kind of chillax a little bit before he comes home, and also so I can go grab dinner. But we did manage to stick the landing and cover all the topics that I wanted to. Those were the main three. I do feel a little terrible that we took an hour to get to the topics because I went on some rants and talking about Brand New Day and the new trailer and my whole journey to try to secure those tickets. But we were here and I managed to deliver on a girthy show. And also, there's a chance that considering how things are probably going to be slowing down here for companies like Inart and UPF and even McFarlane, considering that unless more things leak, I do feel like we're starting to enter that little bit of lull where companies are just going to go silent because they're prepping for the Comic-Con presence that they're going to try to tackle. So, especially when it comes to Inart and McFarlane with San Diego Comic-Con. I know that UPF's not going to be handling Comic-Con because that's one of the things that was mentioned by Killzone in that stream was that they don't really want to focus on conventions too much, and if they do, it's really stuff that's just going on at home as opposed to in China rather than traveling for those. They rather just focus on actually making the figures. And personally, that is a good outlook to have, a good perspective, and I respect it. So yeah, I expect there to be a lull. So there's a good chance that this might be it for live streams for a while, unless, like I said, something goes down that's worthy of being talked about and it starts stacking up after a little while. I'm like, all right, I guess I gotta talk about this. But for now, that really about does it. So Skelly Bones, Blackout Mike, Anonymous Throne, Brian's new dishwasher. I already said Blackout Mike. Who else was here? Who else was here? I think that was really about it. In terms of chatters, I think that's really about it. Unless Jason's Electric just jumps in here randomly like he always does at the end. But yeah, that's about it. And all lurkers who were just chilling and watching, thank you for contributing and watching me yap, as Skelly Bones mentioned. But gonna go ahead and call it there and start knuckling down on the rest of this Red Death review, which is, about, like, I want to say 80% done. So I think realistically, look for my review of the UPF Fig Trove Red Death review Sunday morning. Definitely not tomorrow, but Sunday morning for sure. And going forward, I will be, like I said, trying to strategize what I'm going to do with this Inart Arkham Origins Batman Battle Damage version. And I got something from Toys Metaverse that's Spider-Man related. This should be interesting to review. Yeah. So I'm actually in the process of filming this as a whole, and hopefully Sunday I'll finish doing said review and start working on editing it. So yeah, wave goodbye, sick Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, because he was sick when he was wearing this, but they still managed to toss it in. Wave goodbye. Good night, Blackout Mite, Skelly Bones, and the rest of you chatters and watchers. And until next time, guys, stay humble. Peace.